What happens when the past refuses to stay buried and begins to hunt the future? Welcome to Price of Hidden Sins. The Olobo family of Paibona village was well known. For many years, they had been one of the most successful families in the region. They were hardworking and respected by their neighbors. Many of their children went to school, got good jobs, and built beautiful homes. But there was something strange about this family. No matter how successful they became, they never lived long enough to enjoy their wealth. At first, no one noticed, but over the years, people began to talk. Why did the Olam children die so young? Why did they all suffer from the same sickness? Hepatitis B? The disease was a silent killer. It started slowly, making the person weak and tired. Their skin turned yellow, their stomachs swelled, and after a few months, they were gone. It first happened to John Olam. He was a doctor, young and full of life. One day he complained of being tired. He thought it was just stress from work. But when his skin began to change color, he went to the hospital. The doctors told him, "You have hepatitis B." John was shocked. How could this happen to him? He was a doctor. He knew about diseases. He had been careful, but no medicine worked. Slowly, his body became weaker, and before the family could understand what was happening, John was gone. A few months later, it happened again. Susan Olam, a successful lawyer, fell sick in the same way. Just like John, she became weak. Her skin turned yellow, and she died. Then another brother and another sister. One by one, 5 out of 7 children in the Olam family died. Now there were only 2 family members left, David and Mary. They were afraid. What if the same sickness came for them too? The village elders began to whisper, "This is not an ordinary disease. This is a curse." But the Olam family refused to believe in curses. They were educated people. They trusted science, not old village stories. Still, the sickness did not stop. One night, an old man in the village, Lapolo, called David and Mary to his home. "My children," he said, "I know why your family is dying. There is something your grandfather did a long time ago, something terrible, and now the spirits are taking their revenge." David looked at the old man confused. "What do you mean?" "Your family carries blood on its hands. Until you make peace with the past, the curse will not stop," said Lapola. David and Mary listened, but they were not sure what to believe. Could it be true? Was their family really cursed? David Olam could not sleep that night. Lapolo's words echoed in his mind. "Your family carries blood on its hands. Until you make peace with the past, the curse will not stop." What did he mean? What terrible thing had his ancestors done? The next morning, David and Mary decided to speak to their grandmother, Ajak Olam. She was the oldest member of the family, nearly 90 years old. If anyone knew the truth, it was her. They found her sitting outside her small hut, peeling cassava. "Grandma," David greeted her respectfully, "we need to talk to you." She looked up, surprised by their serious faces. "What is it, my children?" David hesitated before speaking. "Grandmother, is it true that our family did something bad in the past? Did our ancestors kill someone?" For a moment, Ajak froze. The knife in her hand slipped and fell to the ground. Her breathing became heavy. "Who told you this?" she whispered. "Lapolo," Mary answered. "He said the sickness in our family is not ordinary, that it is a curse." Tears filled her eyes. "I had hoped you would never have to know, but the past does not sleep," said the old woman. She looked at them sadly. Then in a quiet, trembling voice, she began to tell them the dark secret of the Olam family. Many years ago, 2 families lived side by side, the Olams and the Okanis. They were once brothers, but a terrible conflict changed everything. The Olam family, led by Olam, was powerful. He was a great warrior, feared by many. The Okene family was smaller but hardworking. They lived peacefully, growing crops and taking care of their animals. But one day a land dispute broke out between the two families. Olam wanted the land where the Okenes lived, saying it belonged to his ancestors. Okene refused to leave. At first, they tried to resolve the matter peacefully, but anger and greed poisoned Olam's heart. One night, he gathered his sons and some warriors. Armed with spears and arrows, they attacked the Okene homestead while they slept. It was a massacre. Okene and his wife were killed in their hut. Two of their children, a boy and a girl, were also murdered. Their bodies were left in the open as a warning to others. Only two sons of the Okene family survived. They ran into the forest, never to be seen again. After the attack, Olam took the land for himself. He built his home on the same soil where he had spilled innocent blood. The village elders warned him, "You have angered the spirits. Blood has been spilled unjustly. One day the dead will return to claim what is theirs." But Olam laughed. He did not believe in curses. He continued to live his life, passing his wealth down to his children. For many years, nothing happened. It seemed the elders were wrong. The Olam family grew richer, more successful. But the curse was waiting. Generations passed and Olam's children continued to prosper. Until now. Ajak wiped her tears and looked at David and Mary. "My children, the curse has finally come. The spirits of the Okenes family are taking back the lives that were stolen from them." It all made sense now. The sickness, the deaths. It was not just a disease. "Grandma, what can we do?" Ajak took a deep breath. "You must find the descendants of the Okene family. You must ask for their forgiveness. Only then can the curse be broken." David and Mary looked at each other. Could they find the Okene family after all these years? And if they did, would they even agree to forgive? They had no choice. If they did nothing, the curse would take them too. David and Mary sat in silence for a long time after their grandmother finished telling the story. The truth was heavy. Their family had built its success on bloodshed. The spirits had waited, and now they were collecting their debt. "We must find the Okene family," Mary finally said. "If we don't, this curse will never end." David nodded, but he felt unsure. Where would they start? It had been many generations since the massacre. What if the Okene descendants had left the region long ago? "We will ask the elders," he said. "They know the history of this land." The next morning, David and Mary visited Lapolo, the old man who had first spoken of the curse. He was waiting for them as if he already knew they would come. "You have come for guidance," he said. "You seek the Okene family." David and Mary nodded. Lapolo closed his eyes for a moment. Then he said, "They are still among us, though not many know. You must travel to Pader village. There you will find an old man named Olobo Okene. He is the last of the bloodline." David's heart pounded. "Are you sure?" Lapolo nodded. "I have lived long enough to know these things. If you wish to break the curse, you must go to him." David and Mary thanked him and hurried home to prepare for the journey. The road to Pader was long and dusty. David borrowed a motorcycle from a friend, and together he and Mary set off on the journey. As they traveled, Mary could not hide her fear. What if Olobo Okene refuses to forgive us? What if he is angry? "I don't know, but we must try," said David. The past could not be erased, but maybe forgiveness could offer them a new future. After many hours, they arrived in Pader. They asked around until an old woman pointed them toward a small hut at the edge of the village. "That is where Olobo Okene lives," she said. David and Mary stood outside the small hut, their hearts pounding. The journey had led them here, to Olobo Okene, the last known descendant of the murdered family. David cleared his throat and called out, "Hello? Is anyone home?" For a moment, there was silence. Then the door creaked open, and an old man stepped out. He studied them carefully, his face unreadable. He was Olobo Okene. "Who are you?" he asked in a deep, raspy voice. "My name is David Olam. This is my sister Mary. We have come from Pai Bona village." At the mention of Pai Bona, Olobo's eyes narrowed. "I know that name," he said slowly. "Olam, that is a name with blood on it." Mary's hands trembled. "Sir, we have come to ask for your forgiveness." Olobo Okene did not respond immediately. Instead, he turned and walked back into his hut. "Come in," he said. David and Mary followed, sitting nervously on the woven mats inside. The air was thick with unspoken words. Olobo sat down across from them. "Tell me why you are here," he said. David took a deep breath and began to speak. He told the old man everything, how 5 members of their family had died of the same sickness, how the villagers whispered about a curse, how their grandmother had finally revealed the truth about the massacre. "We did not know," David said, his voice low. "We were never told, but now that we do, we want to make things right." Olobo listened in silence. His face remained expressionless. When David finished, the old man sighed deeply and closed his eyes. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Olobo finally said, "I was told this story when I was a child. My grandfather, one of the few who survived, never forgot what happened. They killed my family in their sleep. They left their bodies to rot. And now you come to ask for forgiveness?" David lowered his head in shame. "We know it will not bring them back, but we want peace. We want to end the curse." Olobo stared at them for a long time. Then he said, "Forgiveness is not given with words. It must be earned." "What must we do?" asked Mary. Olobo stood up slowly and said, "There is a ritual. If you are truly sorry, you must do it." David and Mary exchanged a nervous glance. If they wanted to break the curse, they would have to face the past in the way the spirits demanded. David and Mary sat in silence, waiting for Olobo Okene to explain what needed to be done. The old man looked at them carefully before speaking. "There is an old tradition," he said. "When blood is spilled unjustly, the spirits do not rest until the earth is cleansed. To break the curse, you must return to the land where the killings happened. You must offer a sacrifice and ask for forgiveness, not just from me, but from the spirits of my ancestors." "You mean we have to go back to Pai Bona?" David asked. Olobo nodded. "Yes, you must go to the very place where my grandfather's family was murdered. The land remembers the blood that was shed." "What kind of sacrifice do we need to make?" asked Mary. Olobo took a deep breath. "A white goat, a calabash of millet flour, and a pot of traditional beer. These things represent purity, life, and reconciliation." David and Mary exchanged nervous glances. This was bigger than anything they had imagined. Would the spirits truly listen? Would this really end the curse? Olobo must have sensed their hesitation. He leaned forward and said, "If you do not do this, the spirits will not stop. The curse will follow your children and their children after them. You cannot escape the past unless you face it." David nodded. They had no choice. "We will do it," he said. Olobo stood up and walked to the back of his hut. When he returned, he was holding something, a small old piece of cloth. It was stained and torn, but the color was still visible. Red. "This," he said, handing it to David, "belonged to my great-grandfather. He was wearing it the night he was murdered." David hesitated before taking it. The fabric felt heavy, as if it carried the weight of history. "Bring this to the land of my ancestors," Olobo said. "When you make the sacrifice, place it on the ground. Let the spirits know you have come in peace." Mary wiped tears from her eyes. "Will you come with us?" she asked. Olobo shook his head. "Number, this is for you to do, but when it is done, you must return to me." David and Mary stood up. They had their task. Now they had to return to the land where the blood had been spilled, and hope that the spirits were listening. The journey back to Pai Bona was filled with silence. David and Mary carried the items Olobo had instructed them to bring: a white goat, a calabash of millet flour, and a pot of traditional beer. But the most important item was the blood-stained cloth from Olobo's great-grandfather. They could feel its weight in the small bag Mary carried. It was more than just fabric. It was history, pain, and the memory of a life taken unjustly. When they arrived in Paibona, the sun was setting. The village was quiet, but as they passed through, some of the elders watched them closely, as if they knew what was about to happen. David stopped at their grandmother's hut. Ajak Olam was waiting for them. "You have returned," she said softly. "Yes, Jaja," David answered. "We know what must be done." Ajak nodded. "The land remembers everything, my children. Do not take this lightly." She led them through a narrow path toward the area where the massacre had happened. It was a field of old trees and thick grass, untouched for generations. "We have arrived," she whispered. David and Mary looked around. The air felt different here, heavy, charged with something unseen. Mary shivered. "Do you feel that?" David nodded. The place felt alive, but not in a good way. Ajak took a deep breath and said, "We must begin before nightfall." David tied the white goat to a small tree, while Mary placed the calabash of millet flour and the pot of beer on the ground. Ajak took the blood-stained cloth and spread it on the earth. Then she lifted her hands to the sky and began to speak in a low, trembling voice. "Spirits of the Akani family, hear us. We come not as enemies, but as children, seeking peace." David and Mary followed her lead. Kneeling before the offering, David spoke next. "We are sorry for what was done to your family. Our ancestors took lives that were not theirs to take. We have come to return what was stolen and to ask for forgiveness. Please do not let the sins of our forefathers destroy our family." "We ask for mercy," said Mary. As the last word left her lips, a strong wind blew through the trees. The fire they had lit flickered violently, and for a moment the entire place went silent. Then, a whisper. It did not come from any of them. It came from the trees, the earth, the air itself. David's heart pounded. Was this the spirits answering? Ajak reached for the goat, lifted a small knife, and made a clean cut. The animal gave a final cry before falling still. The sacrifice was complete. Ajak dipped her fingers in the blood and sprinkled it on the ground. "Now we wait," she whispered. David and Mary stared at the stained earth, holding their breath. Had the spirits accepted their plea, or had they just made things worse? Ajak Olam, their grandmother, remained still, her eyes fixed on the blood-stained ground. Then suddenly, the air changed. The heaviness that had pressed on their chests lifted, and an eerie silence followed. The night no longer felt haunted. Ajak nodded slowly. "It is done." David and Mary exhaled, their hearts still racing. "How do you know?" Mary asked. Ajak pointed to the white goat's blood that had soaked into the ground. It was disappearing. "The spirits have accepted," she said. "If they had not, the earth would have rejected the blood." David felt a strange warmth in his chest. For the first time in years, he did not feel the shadow of death over his family. At dawn, David and Mary traveled back to Potter to inform Olobo Okani of what had happened. When they arrived at his hut, the old man was already waiting outside, as if he had sensed the ritual's success. "You did it," Olobo said, studying their faces. David nodded. "The spirits accepted our offering. The curse is broken." Olobo sighed deeply, his eyes glistening with emotion. For years, his ancestors had cried for justice. Now they could finally rest. "I never thought I would see this day," Olobo said. He reached out and touched David's shoulder. "Go in peace. Let the past rest and build a new future." Mary's voice trembled as she spoke. "Can you forgive us?" Olobo looked at them for a long time. Then he nodded. "Forgiveness does not erase the past, but it allows us to move forward." David and Mary bowed their heads in respect. The burden of generations had been lifted. It was time for healing. When David and Mary returned to Koboko, a sense of peace had settled over their home. For the first time in years, their family did not live in the fear of the sickness. Weeks turned into months, and no more deaths followed. The curse had ended. David sat outside one evening, watching the sun set over the fields. His mind replayed everything: the truth about his ancestors, the pain of the Okini family, and the ritual that had changed everything. His family had been given a second chance, and they would never take it for granted. As the wind brushed against his face, he whispered, "Thank you." Somewhere, in the unseen world, the spirits of the past finally rested, and life, for the Olam family, began on a fresh sheet. Moral lesson of the story: the past cannot be erased, but it can be healed through truth, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Hiding past wrongs brings suffering, but facing them brings peace. When we seek forgiveness with a sincere heart, we free ourselves and future generations from pain. Honesty, justice, and unity keep families and communities strong. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more.